Hello, my loves. Well, I haven't done a video for a while, so I thought I might as well do a video and talk about this Paul Venis situation where he claims he bumped into Shadow Boxer. And for anyone that knows anything about the history between Shadow Boxer and Paul Venis had been saying for well over a year he was going to lay Shadow Boxer low. If he ever met him, he was calling Shadow Boxer a wrong and a nonce, or SO, the lot he was calling him. So when they met, apparently, according to Paul, this was all by accident. He didn't expect to see Shadow Boxer did, so he didn't expect to see him. But there's a question over whether Shadow Boxer just suddenly appeared from nowhere. And that's how they got and took Paul by surprise, off guard. But they started talking, and now he thinks that Shadow Boxer's okay. They'll never be friends, but he's okay. He's a funny fella. He's he does good content and all this. And he more or less turned it right round. And this is so typical of Paul, to make it all about him being the better man. Because, and I'm not saying he should have laid into Shadow Boxer, but what I'm saying is, he turns it right round to, I'm the better man because I didn't lay into him. But then as things moved on, and it was Ebenezer Greensplat I learned this from, what happened then was that a video made somewhere of Paul Venis and Shadow Boxer, and it looked like they were at that fighting event that Paul Venis was talking about. It looked like that. It might not have been, it might have been somewhere else, a pub. But Paul Venis is being very friendly and laughing with Shadow Boxer. So this idea that Shadow Boxer suddenly appeared seems doubtful now. And does Paul Venis tell lies? He certainly does. That part of his Christian code he doesn't live up to. He does tell lies, and I've had personal experience of telling lies. And that's why I don't like him and why I went right off him. But I'll give a quick rundown, because I've never actually said what happened to make me distance myself from Paul Venis, where I have sort of like a love-hate situation with Danny Christie, his friend Danny Christie. I can like Danny Christie most of the time, but sometimes he gets on my nerves. But I understand that's my problem if he's getting on my nerves. It's just I don't like preachers, people who preach, and Danny is a real preacher. But other than that, I'd sit down and have a talk with Danny Christie anytime. Paul Venis, I couldn't, because I'd really be having to bite my tongue with Paul Venis, because I really don't like the man. And that sounds harsh, but I don't like him. And how it all came about was how I first became aware of him was Danny was doing a live with him, and you could just see Paul Venis, you couldn't see Danny. If I remember rightly, you couldn't see Danny. But it was obvious that Danny's daughter, or two of his daughters, were in the room with him. You could hear them. And they're not all that old, they're still school children. And Paul Venis's language was disgusting. Filth. F this, even the C word. And I thought, oh, this can't go past without remark and talking like that when there's children about. So I let Paul Venis know that I thought he was disgusting, and, you know, he should have more respect for his friend Danny Christie and his children than to talk filth like that in front of children. Anyway, next I heard he was saying to Danny Christie, oh yeah, I was told off because I was cursing. Quite right, you were told off. It's disgusting for an adult to do that. So then somehow, and I don't even know what this happened, we started talking on social media, but not in a buddy way, but we were just talking. And then I started watching him, and I learned about Vienna, his daughter. And at that time I was doing videos about autism, little panels about autism. So I said, well, why don't you come on, Paul? Because he was doing a charity for Vienna, or for the school that Vienna went to. So I said, why don't you come on and do a video with me talking about what it's like to be a parent of a child with autism and tell people about your charity so you can advertise it. Well, it was like a 2 week, I think it was, gap between arranging this and actually it going live. So, wait a minute, just give me a second. Sorry about that, my lovelies. There'll have been a jump there because when I'm looking at the screen, suddenly it goes blank and me video freezes and I never know whether it's still recording or not. Anyway, getting back to it, there was a gap between when the video was arranged and when it would actually go live of about 2 weeks. And I was watching him on Instagram and his son, small son, was ill and he had to take him to hospital. And he filmed himself with his son in the background lying down on chairs or a couch, I don't know what it was. And Paul is looking up into his camera. You know the way people hold the camera like that, and he's looking into it, all looking concerned, and this song playing. I can't remember what the song was, but it was something about Daddy loves you, Daddy cares, and all this business. And I thought, that's not about his son, that's about him. So that's about him to tell people, look at me, I'm a wonderful daddy. And I thought, what sad ass parent when the child is needing to go to hospital to be checked out and is on a chairs asleep, actually thinks, oh, now what I'll do, I'll just get my camera, I'll film it, and then I'll take time to find an appropriate song that says how wonderful I am as the papa. What a wonderful papa I am. I thought, there's something off about this. This is all about him. So the seed of doubt had been sown then. That was the start of me not wanting to know. Anyway, it came up to the day of, not the day, the night before the live. And he got in touch with me, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to Butlins. I won't be able to do it. Can we rearrange it? And I thought, wait a minute, I thought, you only learned last minute that you're going to Butlins with your family. You didn't know that you were going a few days before you're going. You only knew now. So I said, oh, okay, we'll rearrange it. But I didn't believe a word out of his mouth. I thought, something off here. Anyway, next thing, I'm watching YouTube and I'm watching Exposure TV. And guess who pops up at the time he should have been doing the live with me? Raging and ranting because there was drama going on around him. Paul Venis. And I thought, oh, I thought he was supposed to be on holiday. I thought, Betty, I won't tell you what I was thinking to myself. But I thought, you can appear there, but your charity for your princess and children with autism, you couldn't be bothered coming on to advertise that and talk about that. The drama was more important to you. You just wanted the drama. So I let him know. I said, you can go and do a running one. I said, fly off. I said, I don't care. Don't want to know you. Don't want to talk to you again. And there'll be no interviewing you. And that stands today. He'll never appear on my channel, Paul Venis. So that was it. But I kept on watching him. And the more I watched him, the more I thought, this person is just full of, really full of it. He comes across as a massive narcissist. Now, his mate Danny Christie can be a narcissist, but Danny Christie knows he can be a narcissist, and that's the difference. And Danny Christie just doesn't give a damn. He says, all right, you take him or leave him, that's it. But with Paul Venis, what he's doing is he fishes for compliments. He's always out there fishing for compliments. And he'll do things like, I think the worst thing he does, which he shouldn't, is going online saying he wants to unalive himself, that he feels like he doesn't want to be here anymore and all this business. And I've said his children must know that he's saying this online. And if you're a parent, you put your children first. And can you imagine a child thinking oh my God, at any time I could come home and Papa's not there because he's decided to unalive himself. And it's beyond, so it's all him. And that's what you'll see in his videos. He turns it around. This Christianity as well that he goes on about, he's a good Christian. That all comes across as being false as well. He's got all these tattoos. He's got a big, massive tattoo on his back, which he got done of Jesus, and I think it's the Blessed Virgin as well on his back. He wears, like a lot of these fighters do for some reason, they wear their belief, their Christianity, like a Gucci handbag. Like a woman would use a Gucci handbag. Oh, look at my Gucci handbag. Isn't it expensive? So it's like, oh, look at my big tattoo. That's not what Christianity is. It's not something to go around as a fashion statement. And you can tell he's never read the Bible, because he said things that actually are blasphemous, because he takes the meaning. I won't go over it. I've said this before about something he said about Jesus, which actually turned everything right round to make it the opposite of what it actually meant in the Bible, which is blasphemous when you do that. But it sorted out sorted it out so that it made him, gave him an excuse to be violent if he wanted to be. So there was that as well, but it was mainly this fishing for compliments. And then there was the fact that, has anyone heard what's happened to this charity for Vienna, his daughter, and autistic children, this school? No, it went up in the air. You never heard of it again. But he'll get Vienna and start, these, playing with Vienna and all this business. And it's like, is this the same thing as what he was doing with his son when he was ill, and looking into the camera and playing a song about daddy loving his son? It's like, is this about Vienna or is it about him? Tell me I'm a wonderful papa. Tell me aren't I good for playing with my daughter. Tell me aren't I brilliant. And another thing is that you never hear him, or very rarely hear him, talking about his other kids. You wouldn't think he had other children other than Vienna unless you watch them for a long time. And that shouldn't happen either. All children are equal. Even though you've got one child with special needs and they need more attention, you make sure the other children know they are not lesser than that child. Because that can cause resentment. That can cause resentment in families when one child is having to, well, you can't afford, it has to have more of the attention, but they don't get slotted in there. You've got to make time for all your children as well, and let them understand, well, I have to spend more time with this one child because this child has got special needs. That's what you do, but he doesn't do that. You never hear about his other kids, or very, very, very rarely you hear about them. So that's my views on Paul. That's summing up if I didn't like him. But this situation with Chatterboxer is just so telling. It's the way he's turned it right round. I'm the better man because he didn't smack him around. Actually, I think, looking at his Chatterboxer, I think he could fight back if he did try to start on him. But he made it sound like this was all a surprise. This is all, he didn't expect it, and so he acted on impulse and he decided to take the higher road. But now we're seeing photos of him, as you can see here, photos of him, being jolly with Shadow, and then there's the video where they're having a good laugh with each other. And that's Paul Venis to me. And don't forget, there was the situation with Decker Heggie. He was slagging off Decker Heggie. And guess what? Who pops up and acts as a fair play man? Paul Venis. Compulsive liar. Can't believe a word out of his mouth. Total narcissist. Fishing for compliments. Me, I could go on more and more and more about it. Even his wedding to his wife, which he took 20 years to do. I mean, this good Christian never read in the Bible that it's actually a sin to fornicate before marriage. He forgot that bit and waited 20 years having his fun, hair popping out as kids. And then he decided to get married, and he even turned the marriage ceremony into being about him. She didn't even get the joy of it. It was all about him. But anyway, my lovelies, I'm seeing a frozen picture at the moment again, so I'll end it here. I might be carrying on talking, and I might not be, for all I know. I'll only find out when I go to edit it. But that's my views on Paul Venis. Talks absolutely bull. But again, it's his life. Let him get on with it.